The Gallant Few Rangers podcast is brought to you by Triple H Mortgages, the one-stop shop for all your mortgage and mortgage insurance needs. Contact them today on 01453 887 179 or hello@hhhmortgages.com. You can also find them online at hhhmortgages.com or on their Facebook page. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tenny Bears on the Gallant Feud podcast, the show where we bring on a different guest each week to answer the 10 set questions in their time following Rangers. My name's Colin McDuff and I'll be your host as always. I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, one of the very few remaining true gentlemen in this world, a knight of the north of Glasgow and probably the most middle class man I know. Graham Campbell, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on, Graham. Thanks for taking the time to look through these questions. Just before we get into it, tell us a bit about yourself and how you came about following Rangers mainly.
So, I guess for me mainly it came from my brother, I'd have to say. Really getting into Rangers early doors, but not really starting to attend games until I was kind of early teens, and got my season ticket when I was, I want to say 16 or 17. It was the 2003-2004 season. Some might remember we were playing CSK Moscow in the Champions League qualifier under McLeish. It was the season after we had beat them Fairmont Ibrox in that famous last day of the season. So I'm 32 now and I've been a season ticket holder ever since. Would follow Rangers over Europe and to as many away games as possible. I guess that's maybe fell on the wayside a bit more as I've got older, but I'll always still try and go away as much as I can. Love the Rangers and it's always good to be able to come on and talk about them.
And it's a good excuse for a holiday as well. It's funny you mention about your first season at Ibrox being, or your first season ticket being in the 03-04 season. That was mine as well. And what I come down that was seeing your team win the treble in that fashion. Players like Michael Mould, Ronald de Boer, Arthur Newman, a young Barry Ferguson, Lorenzo Amoruso. Then when you turn up to Ibrox the following season, you brought in Nuno Krupic, Ego Ostenstad, Zura Kisnik, really. That was a hard one.
The thing is, for me, the actual season before, and the game against Dunfermline, I could have been there that day for whatever reason. Just before that game, I thought, right, I'll go and have a few golf balls at the range. I'll come back and watch the game. Missed the call, could have been at the game. That's one of those things. But got my season ticket the next season, and I've got to say I did love that era. Alex McLeish. I mean, look, of course, we'll talk about guys like Walter Smith. I think he's everyone's favourite manager, but Alex McLeish is very much the soft spot for me. I absolutely adore the guy, love him, thought the job he did with the constraints he had was amazing. I loved that, and I think that's probably why I've got a soft spot as well, because it was my first season, he was in charge. But yeah, totally, I know what you're saying. I know where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's fire into these, Graham. We'll start in a high note. So as always, these questions are absolutely open to the guest's interpretation. However they want to perceive it and answer it, it's your own memories and experiences following Rangers. So first of all, what's your favourite Rangers goal?
So yeah, obviously it's a difficult one. Don't get me wrong, there's a million goals that pop into your head, and that's whether you're somebody that goes to the games or doesn't go to the games, whether you're sitting watching it for the comfort of your own home, it doesn't matter. There's always something that stands out. For me, I had to whittle it down to 2008, Stephen Whittaker away to Sporting Lisbon, making it 2-0 to put us into the semi-finals. I was at the game, and I mean, everything about that season was amazing. But I guess not only the absolute jubilance that I felt at that moment that goal went in, and the actual goal itself, was probably one of the better goals we've scored in Europe, certainly that I can remember in my time. It was just an amazing match, and it was a great goal, and the feeling was just unbelievable. I can't describe it. It was great. The one thing I take away from that match as well is, I think after the match, I remember McCoist was on the touchline getting interviewed for whoever it was, ITV at the time, and all the Rangers fans in the crowd behind singing "You fat bastard, you fat bastard," and McCoy's kind of sticking the Vicky up while he's doing this live interview to the fans. It was brilliant, honestly. But yeah, that goal, I mean, honestly, it was really hard, but I think European trips are really special, as you'll know, and that's just one goal that will always stand out to me. Always. It was amazing.
It was a terrific goal, but probably the most nerve-wracking build-up to a goal I've ever watched. I watched it on TV, and I don't know, he gets past the first player, pass. He runs a bit more, pass. Then by the end you're screaming, square it, and he keeps going. And
it's funny, like, as you say, it's like half the guys in the crowd are like swearing at him, but half they were like, for fuck's sake, what are you doing? Square the ball, square it, go on, go. It was brilliant, it really was.
And I don't know if you heard that when you first said your answer, but that was the sound of keyboards crashing all across follow when you gave a bit of praise to Stephen Whittaker.
It's not something I enjoy doing, I'll be perfectly honest. Stephen Whittaker and Stephen Naismith I barely like talking about these days. However, that is one goal that no matter what happens, it's something I can't eradicate. It was an amazing feeling, and it was an amazing trip. That was an amazing trip. If you were down the Docas at Lisbon that night after that game, I salute you. You know what I'm talking about. What a great night.
So, next one, mate. Where's the strangest place you've watched a game?
So I think when you gave me the questions, one of the things I asked was this in general, or is it Rangers? So I've got a kind of answer for both, but I'll focus on Rangers. For me, it was Gibraltar. 2019 was at St Joseph's we were playing. God, it was to get into Gibraltar alone. To get into the main city, you need to walk across the airport runway. Anyway, I mean, it's a class place to go, but it's a really strange one. Like, it's just a strange walking across the border, walking across the runway of the airport. I didn't fly into Gibraltar, mind you. And then the actual ground itself is literally next to the runway as well. It's just a really strange setup. And obviously Gibraltar itself, I guess, every team in the league play in the same ground. So whether you go and see Lincoln Red Imps, St Joseph's, whoever, it's all on that one ground. So no matter what European trip you get to Gibraltar, you're going to that place. I mean, honestly, it was a brilliant place, different place to go, really cool place. I would go back. I don't know why you would go back, maybe football, but that was a strange place, I guess, to watch the Rangers.
I didn't know that every team uses the same ground. That's bizarre.
I mean,
for Europe,
no, in the league, I'm almost certain they all play in that. Maybe it's something you want to fact check. I'm 95% sure that's where every single league game's played as well through the whole season in Gibraltar. And then they all use that ground, obviously, for European game.
Christ. So you need to tell us, you had an answer for non-Rangers related, so I need to hear this one.
It wasn't, I guess it's not strange for anything other than I was in a stag do in Berlin, and it was a pre-season game, and we went to Union Berlin, and it was against Celta Vigo. We went in with like German clubs. Germany's amazing. If you've never been, go. The way they do football, everything brilliant, amazing. So I was quite excited. I've been to quite a few German grounds in the past. And I went in, and obviously pre-season, the game was horrific. It was about 10-15 minutes in, I started clocking the half and half scars, Union Berlin and Celtic, and I was like, oh, what is this? What is going on here? That would take 10 minutes, I start looking up, they have some whatever connection. So me being the old petty guy that I am, I got out of there at half time and went back into Berlin to booze. Petty or not, I was just like, nah, the game's shite as well, so I'm moving on.
Christ, if you, for whatever reason, if you did lose any storage points for your first answer, you fucking regained them there.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're obviously a well-travelled Rangers fan. You've been about. This must be a solid answer for you. Just knowing, like Graham and I work together. Just some of the stories you tell me and like in work and passing about following Rangers. Honestly, I'm like a wee boy listening to his granddad. It's fucking tremendous. But if you can pinpoint, what is your favourite away day with Rangers?
Kelly 2000, like Kelly away winning the league in 7 minutes. Absolutely no bother. The best day I've ever had. I think ever. That was out of this world good. Started off early with the boys. Drinking, went through the supporters bus, and I genuinely had one of those last day of the season things anyway. I mean, you're shiting yourself regardless, but I really had bad feelings. I just had that pit of the stomach. This is not going to be a good day for us. It was just one of those. So getting in the ground and seeing in one of the videos after the goals, you see the guy in the suit and the Walter Smith mask. I remember seeing him in the game pissing myself. I thought it was hilarious. But seven, like beyond your wildest dreams, 3-0 up after 7 minutes in the last day of the season, like it was unbelievable. I get goosebumps talking about it. Absolutely no bother talking about that. It's the best away day I've ever had.
See, I know exactly what you mean about the feeling in the pit of your stomach. I had that day as well, and so many people that were there that day, they had that feeling. I was sitting in the Kelly end, and actually I didn't see the first goal, Murphy's first goal, because I remember standing up and the goal was to my left-hand side, and I'm in the middle of my two mates in the Kelly end, and I've turned to my mate on the right. I'm going, listen, I've got a fucking bad feeling, and his face just lit up with joy. I'm going, what's the matter? By the time I turned round laughing, he was running away, celebrating. What happened? What? No way. Did you get a ticket for the Rangers end or the Kelly end that day?
No, I was in the Rangers end. But let's face it, every end was the Rangers end that day. It was outrageous. Like, that's another thing. I don't think I'll ever see anything like that. Whatever was going on at Kelly that time as well. Kelly aren't the best for selling out Rugby Park. Best of times. So I think that probably helped. But I mean, it was 3 stands full pretty much, if I remember correctly.
Pretty much, aye.
4 stands full almost. Like, it was incredible. Like, I don't think we'll see that again. And a lot of clubs have since probably stopped that. Maybe in the last 10 years or so, like, really held back on allocations, I guess, like in terms of what we now get at Tynecastle and Easter Road especially. I think we won't really see that sort of thing again.
No, but then they'll complain about they don't get enough money, but hell mend them. Fuck them.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Scottish football in a nutshell, isn't it? But no, what a day that was, and something so special about that Walter Smith's last day as well. And aye, I know what you mean. Is like I almost get the lump in my throat just thinking about that day all in all.
And I think it was good, even like heading back to Ibrox after it and stuff, and memories from that as well. Going back and like guys like Vice on the pitch and his suit and tie, mimicking goals and taking the piss out of Scott Brown. All those things, like the whole day, everything about that day was just absolutely magic. It was brilliant.
It really was.
And see if you knew, see if you want to turn around and say, by the way, this is it for a decade. I mean, you'd never have believed it anyway. But
so
that probably makes it all the better as well.
Not to be controversial, but is that day more special now after what's happened? Is it more special in hindsight?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. That even if we'd went on to win 9 in a row ourselves or something like that, that day is still, that is not going to happen again. I mean, it could always happen. It's us in Scottish football, but 7 minutes, 3-0, the last day of the season, Celtic could have won it. Like that scenario, everything, all that, I just don't see how that ever happens again. It was just electric.
It really was. And I always remember the kit as well. And that's, I genuinely, I know we did wear that kit more that season, but I can't think of another single game where that, anytime I think about the black, I can't think of another game other than Kilmarnock away.
That's I mean, essentially, that's why we have third kits, right? Really, it's just Kelly. Unless somebody else gets promoted, maybe if Dundee are kicking about, I don't know what they do. But Kelly's essentially the only place we need to wear our third kits. But yeah, totally. That kit. I mean, it was actually quite a nice kit, really. But synonymous now with that day, that's for sure.
Really is. Right, so next one, mate. What's the funniest thing you've seen at a Rangers game?
So, I mean, I guess it's not funny as in I was splitting myself laughing in terms of that, but a different funny was 2006. It was Ted McMinn's testimonial. It was down Derby. Anyone that was there, I mean, it was it was a carnage trip. I would have thought that. I mean, I was 18. Went with a bus I'd not been with before with a couple of boys. It was just nuts. The whole day was mental. Do you know what I mean? You're leaving at whatever time in the morning. I think the only one that was better by that and leaving early was going down to Bristol City. If you were down there for the pre-season a few years back as well, I think you're leaving at midnight or something. Do you know? Those trips are always carnage. They're not going to be anything but carnage. But yeah, Derby, Ted McMinn's testimony. That was what a day that was. Brilliant, good laugh. But I think you'll find pictures of it, no problem. But the linesman running up and down the line with a big Union flag instead of his linesman's flag, you'll be able to find it, no problem at all. But I just remember thinking this was brilliant. Like I did, that was a good laugh. It's always good when you've got officials like that taking the mick as well. And as I say, I doubt I'll see a linesman running up and down a line anytime soon with a Union flag at a Rangers game.
You just know that added fuel to the fire for the Tim's Mason ref campaign, didn't it?
Of course.
But that's I remember people. I was at show at that point, but I remember people talk about it at the time, and people since talk about that. But it seems to be a thing. What's it like travelling to a pre-season game like in the UK? Because all the stories are so warm and welcome, and obviously I'm biased, but I always find Rangers are pretty. Other teams' fans are pretty receptive to Rangers down south, and I don't know. It always seems to be summed up by how light-hearted and good-natured the pre-season trips are.
Absolutely. I guess that's probably all summed up. I never made it. I would have loved to, but those Sheffield Wednesday trips looked like they were absolutely amazing. Going to Hillsborough as well, that would have been an iconic stadium, but the videos you saw from that game were incredible. I think you're totally right. We do tend to get a relatively warm welcome in down south anyway. Obviously, I guess Rangers stance and the fact we carry Union flags and sing God Save the Queen, I'm sure that helps a lot. But I always think it's overlooked how good our fans are. Like, we really are top notch, and it's so disappointing when everyone always goes back to Manchester this, Manchester that, and it's not fair because we were all there. We all know it was absolutely, in that run up to Manchester, there was not one arrest the whole wave. I mean, again, somebody can correct me, but the whole European journey, everything, and I was on a lot of those away trips as well that season. Our fans are so impeccably behaved. Of course, you get some silly scuffles, but our fans are class. They're so class, and see that whole, when you go away a lot, obviously that's something that I really miss. Something since 2012 where the European trip subsided a bit, well, completely obviously until the last couple of seasons. That there was that whole camaraderie of, see all these European trips you go on and you get to know all these guys as well, and it's amazing. We're such a class fan base, especially in away days. And I totally think there's no surprise we get that warm welcome. At the end of the day, we go to pubs, we take them over. We help out businesses. The amount of times I've been away with Rangers in pubs and massive buckets are getting passed around for tips or for the bar staff, like all that, it all helps, and we are such a amazing travelling fans.
No, I completely agree with you, and it's just that where we are in Scotland, it's a done thing. It's an easy thing to fucking have a go at knuckle dragging Rangers fans, as they'll paint it. But it's completely not the case at all. It's no, and obviously you and I are biased. Everybody listening to this is biased, but if we're being completely objective, out with maybe, I don't know, Man U, like you'll struggle to find a team in Britain that matches the power of our fans and how we back our club, whether it be domestically or in Europe.
What I'll say is, I have no proof of this. I've got nothing at all. I've never looked into it. I would love somebody to look into it. I am absolutely convinced that there is not a better travelling support in numbers than Rangers. I just don't see how. People are always talking about Leeds, Man U, maybe. I get it, but see, in terms of sheer travelling numbers, I just don't see how any other club. I mean, remember, but they take to Barcelona in 07 to 25,000 or something like that. That's outrageous. Like, that is outrageous. I don't care. I'm not seeing a Man U or a Leeds taking that. And again, people complain about the litter, whatever, right? Okay, it's going to happen. Yeah, it's unfortunate. People litter, God. But taking 25,000 fans across to Spain, and you're meeting all these guys and all these people you recognise from past trips, and hearing all these stories, it's so good. So good. Just sitting down and talking to well-travelled Rangers fans, guys that haven't missed games in 30 years now. Some of the stories. Oh, it's incredible.
Really is, man. I better renew my passport, man, after talking to you.
I think we're all actually. I'm trying to think. Gibraltar. I've not got away. Obviously, that season was a write-off, but for me personally, Gibraltar was the last one for me. I didn't make any of the. Wait, when was Vienna? God.
Vienna was after Gibraltar. And
was it? There we go.
Story. So about was it a year after Vienna? Graham and I started working together, and we had that thing that you have. It's, I know you from somewhere. I absolutely know you, and we're like, okay, we're both Rangers fans. It must be for the Loudon or going to Ibrox. I sat in the cop when you sat in the main stand, so it wasn't that. Turns out on the bus from the city centre to Vienna, Graham was the seat behind me. I mean, bizarre.
The day trips are always just nuts as well. Anyway, I think one of the best day trip, one of them anyway, was we were already out of the Champions League, but we went over to Seville. I think they won 1-0. But that was a day trip, and it was early December, and it was like -2 when we left Glasgow at like 5 in the morning. You get off in Seville at 9 in the morning, it's like 22 degrees. Like, that was bliss, man. That was so good. What a day that was. Brilliant.
Fantastic. So, next one, mate. Can you think of a player who you didn't rate at all, but everybody else loved, and you just couldn't see it?
This one was really difficult, I'll be honest, because I'm probably sickeningly, blindingly loyal in a way. Like, I'm not saying I'm a cut above everyone else, but I will always push to give somebody like the benefit. I always like, see when somebody's getting slaughtered in the pitch, and I'm like, right, calm down. Calm down. But really racking my brain, and I'm not even sure how loved he was. He's probably one of those players. For me, Thomas Buffel, right? He's one of those players that I think a lot of people loved having him in the team. I think a lot of people saw stuff in him. I think actually over the last couple of years, I've heard people talking about, oh, he's like Buffel, he was like Buffel. I didn't totally see it, and I don't know if it was the position he was getting played in, I don't know, but I didn't totally see it whenever he played. I didn't totally get it. Maybe I would have appreciated it more if he played now. I don't know. Maybe it was my age. Maybe it was my experience of watching Rangers. But I think if I had to really pinpoint it, it would have been a Thomas Buffel. And that's not him. God, Thomas Buffel, still love the guy. You know what I mean? But yeah, that would have been that. Probably him.
Thomas Buffel is an interesting one. So I'm very much of the opinion of players do get better with hindsight. Regardless, okay, I'm even hearing people nowadays saying Ian Black wasn't that bad, and I've nearly go to jail for my reaction to that. Like, the Thomas Buffel, he is getting better with hindsight. And I'm one of these guys. I really like Buffel at the time under McLeish. And I thought under Le Guin, he's going to absolutely dominate. And I always think if he got a chance under Smith, and every year goes past, I thought he was really good. He was really good. Now at the point in my head, I'm kind of like, he was like Zidane. But I know he wasn't. It is way that benefit of hindsight. Do you think you're maybe basing Thomas Buffel on the Walter Smith era? Because he wasn't a Walter Smith player, but that's when we had our success. He was never going to thrive under Smith.
No, I don't know. Honestly, I think I'm based on the one person I can actually think of that maybe at the time, whenever he played, I just he's not offering much, he's not doing much. But again, that could be more about how I watched the game back then, and maybe overlooked or naive to exactly what he did. There was a lot of guys who, I'm not saying he wasn't a good player either, by the way. Like, he was a really well technically gifted player. I'm just saying I didn't get it. I just didn't see what he was offering. Obviously, he set up the goal no-go scores against Hibs in the helicopter Sunday. However, apart from that, he's not somebody that I felt lit up the Rangers team or lit it up for us all. I always thought there was more in him, but we just never saw it.
Right. No, that's a fair way to put it. I think that is a fair assessment of him. So, in the kind of other end of the scale, Graham, this is your chance to present the Sasa Papac Award. So, can you name your Rangers unsung hero? He can't be Sasa himself.
I think, again, it's so hard because you're like, is this an unsung hero? Is he unsung? I don't know. Now, I was a goalie when I was younger, so I'm always quite...
Good with your hands?
I definitely think I'm biased towards goalies. Like, and I talked about blind loyalty when I was like Wes Fodringham. I was like, he's a good goalie. Jack Annie, really good goalie, good back, blah, blah, blah. Unsung hero, though, obviously, over the years. I just don't think that Neil Alexander gets enough praise, enough shouted at about. The guy was at a club for 5 years. He played in cup finals for us, not to mention the UEFA Cup. He stayed post 2012. He was down there, and it's always an easy way out when people say the same about Wallace. I hate it. Well, money and all that. I mean, could he have got more anywhere else? I'm like, that is not fair. I hate that. I really hate that argument. The guy stayed. Yeah, I get he was in the twilight of his career anyway, but he was such a solid figure for us for 5 years, stepping in, solid number twos you're going to get, that going up to the plate, and goals for us in Fiorentina, and goals for us in the UEFA Cup final as well. And he just one of those guys. I think he was a really positive influence in the dressing room as well. I think 5 years is a long time anyway to spend at any club, and I just don't think he gets spoken about enough. And I get probably because he didn't notch up loads of appearances or whatever, but he was a really solid, dependable character, and I really like him. Like, he's one of those soft spot kind of guys for me. Like, I'll always be like, yeah, Neil Alexander, what a guy.
No, Neil Alexander's suffering from the same thing that John McLaughlin is this season, that he is a top goalie. Both of them are top goalies, but they're just not Alan McGregor. They're just not the elite goalies that Rangers are used to. And, you know, see the performances and the way Alexander carried himself and the impact he had. If he had it in any other club, he would be a legend. But it's because Alan McGregor was just that cut above. And I do totally agree with you. I think when we think about the Walter Smith goalie, the second spell, it's always Alan McGregor, but we do forget that Alexander played and he won. Like, he played his part in winning leagues. He played his part in getting to the UEFA Cup. Absolutely. There's
certain tops, for example, right? See, when you see these things online, or here's a football top, who's the first player you think of, right? And goalie tops are one of those, and you've got that one with our old school goalie tots, for example, the grey one, the Gorham wore, you automatically get Gorham. See if you don't see that red and white goalie top of the UEFA Cup final run and that whole season, and you're not automatically drawn to Neil Alexander, there's something wrong here. He's definitely somebody that's, for me, just unsung in the sense of he doesn't get enough credit, he doesn't get spoken about in enough respect terms. You don't need to make an all-time great 11 to be spoken about in good terms. He was such a good servant to the club. So yeah, he's definitely probably my unsung hero for that reason. Yeah,
and it's really, really disappointing how he left the club as well. I think I was gutted that they didn't want to offer him another contract and they brought in Campbell. I had in my head, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago on the Where Are They Now third division show, where we were going through the players of the third division. I had in my head that Alexander would be the keeper until we got to the Premiership, back to the Premiership, and I just had this. I was young and naive. I was like 19 at the time, Graham, but I had in my head that Alexander would be the main goalie, but there'd be a young goalie coming through, and he'd be able to learn off Alexander and get game time here and there. And as we go nearer to the Premiership, this young goalie would come through, or whatever. But fuck, what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, he could have been. I mean, even after he left us, I can't remember exactly who went to. I know he was at Hearts for a period of time. He easily could have done the journey, so to speak. Absolutely could have done the journey.
And what you mentioned at the end, they're going to Hearts, but after spending a year in the third division, he struggled to get elsewhere, and that's where I don't like the argument with Wallace or Alexander, or even McCulloch's a wee bit different. He was towards the end of his career. Wallace and Alexander could have got the same money in the English Championship, English League One, and had a better career. Alexander and Wallace both could have been playing for Scotland in English League One at the time because of the state of the Scotland squad and getting the same money, but they chose to stay with Rangers. I think that has to be commended.
I mean, anyone who disagrees with the Wallace factor, I get he's down there with Warburton. Warburton has a soft spot for him. Wallace, by the way, if you're not keeping tabs on him, his performances the last few games have been magnificent for QPR as well. He's spun that forever love, but that's another story for another time. But the fact he got into the Championship in the last couple of years is testament to the fact he would have walked into any Championship team and potentially tried to get promotion to the Premier League with them in 2012. Absolutely no danger. He chucked everything for our cause, and anyone that wants to go with the money argument can. I'll completely disagree. That guy's... can't say enough about Lee Wallace either.
No. But again, I think Lee Wallace has to be recognised as a... This is just my own opinion, and this show's about you, but he has to be recognised as a true Rangers captain, but that's a completely different show.
Yes.
So Graham, I'm going to drop the tone a wee bit here, mate. And again, this is a nice vague one, open to your interpretation. What's your biggest Rangers regret?
So this was actually an easy one for me, and it was the start of the 07-08 season. I never joined the travel club. I don't know why I didn't join the travel club. I didn't. That season I went on European trips on the way to Manchester, Barcelona, Bremen, Sporting Lisbon, all amazing journeys, amazing trips. Not joining the travel club meant, obviously, if you're in the travel club, you got a ticket for the game. The final, automatically, no danger. I tried everything that season, did not get a game. And it's one of those absolute regrets, purely because, I missed that game. And I remember, I remember just trying to sneak in the stadium. Right? I tried to go in, I remember walking away, and I remember another fan's like, "What are you doing, you fucking idiot," or something. I was just like, fuck you. Like, the pain of me having attended the majority of the games, the European games that season, to then not get to the big one was so unbelievably painful, purely because I didn't join the travel club. And then to make it even worse, after I didn't get in, I walked back to the square where the screen stopped working, and that's where the trouble erupted. Because the screen, everything that whole day was immaculately bathed. Then the screen stops working, and obviously people are going to get irate. You're ready to watch your team in the final European Cup. It's probably more likely a once in a generation thing. Screen stops, gets tasty. So I also missed the first half of that final. So I never saw the full first half of the FA Cup final either. Obviously I never will. I'm not watching it back. So yeah, many regrets around that whole. That whole journey was amazing. So many unbelievable highs for me. Manchester, quarter onwards, massive low.
I almost feel guilty, man. I was 15 at the time, and obviously didn't go to any away games at all. I got a ticket for the final. I feel guilty.
Look, it's the way it goes. It's my own fault. It is what it is. But there was no doubt for me that's my biggest regret. Even we lost or not, it doesn't matter. I would have been there, but I wasn't. And that was that. I think it was just the more I never even got to see the first half, and just everything around it just ended just really, really shadily.
So I still into otherwise tremendous day. It really was terrific.
It was amazing. Brilliant. Really good.
So picking it back up, what's your favourite Rangers song, Graham?
I don't want to be stuck in the mud, same old or anything, but Fall has got to be. It's so easy, it's so simple, but it just gets me G'd up every single time. It's one of those songs, whether it comes on the Tanners at Ibrox, when you're in the away ground, in the away end at someone's ground or something, just fall off, or even, God, who can't watch that video of Dado Purcell singing Fall and not just get absolute goosebumps. I think it was a hard one because, again, this is biased, as we've said. Me, as a football fan, I don't see how any other club in the world has a better back catalogue of just football songs than Glasgow Rangers. I don't see how. We've got such an amazing, extensive back catalogue of just old school football songs, and they're so good. And I love how some just come to the forefront. They probably go out and they come to the forefront, like Blue Sea of Ibrox. I don't know what date exactly. It wasn't like when I started going to Ibrox in 2003. It's not like Blue Sea of Ibrox was always on or something. But it's a song that's been synonymous or whatever. But these ones don't come into fruition, or they maybe go in and out. That's a belter. That was up there for me, Blue Sea of Ibrox as well. See when you're getting to that bit, everyone knows it bit, then your chest is puffed out and you're just absolutely belting it. Oh my God, what a song that is. And all Wolverhampton Town's one of my favourites as well, actually. Sorry, but Fall, to get back to the point, Fall is...
But that leads into the point that you were saying there. So you picked Fall, and the other two you mentioned, Blue Sea of Ibrox, Wolverhampton Town. Pretty traditional songs, pretty old school. But that's when you mentioned about the back catalogue, your Rangers songs, all the best ones that do, either they've been here all the way through or they dip in and out. So the old ones, like what your Gallant says, the old ones are the best, and we really do have, I think the best Rangers songs are the old ones that have stood the test of time, and Fall just epitomises that. It really does.
Oh, look, definitely. I think you go to wins as well, that famous one with the guy on the bus with the Rangers singing the blue, like that's a belter. Obviously, like I'm fully accepting that I'm not going to ever learn the words to that one, but it gets me every time. Just makes me smile every time. One of those. See if you find that video, you're not switching it off. You need to watch all the way through.
And that's you the next work night out, mate. So, the penultimate question, Graham. If you could relive one Rangers match, moment, or day in your lifetime, what would it be?
Again, it's so hard. If anyone actually thinks of this question, you'll have a million things popping into your head. I think first Champions League game at Ibrox, 2003, Rangers v Stuttgart.
What a game! What a game!
Nellinger and Lovenkrands, we go 1-0 down, which happened again. I think it was when we played them in 2007, we go 1-0 down. It seems to be the thing when we play Stuttgart, we go behind the Ibrox, come back 1-1. But I got the ticket from one of our brothers' pals. He sat in the Copeland front, so I was also like, he was pretty behind the goal. That was also the goal that all the goals went in. The subway that night after the game was like, honestly, now people joke about bringing it off the tracks and all that. It was mental. Like, that was chaos. The bouncing and all that. The stadium bouncing that night. The atmosphere was incredible. I think at the game as well, the Lovenkrands goal looked. Like, when you look back at that, I mean, it was a good goal. The keeper maybe could have done better, but at the time, I was like, what a goal, by the way. It was incredible. But I think just purely because it was my first taste of Champions League football at Ibrox as well. That's always a really happy memory.
I know. I remember that was my first Champions League game as well. Just going, not to hijack your 10 questions, but going back to what I was saying earlier about the kind of come down for 2003, 2004. That's probably a bit unfair because there's Rangers in the Champions League beating the fucking champions of Germany. Like, wow. Like, what a game that was, going 1-0 down, and then, I mean, we did play well that night. We really did. It's one of these kind of forgotten games that nobody ever really talks about because it really led to nothing. But what a game! That was a terrific Rangers performance. It really was.
Yeah, no, it was brilliant. 100%, it was great, and it was just those Champions League. I think I always said when we went down to the third division, I always thought, look, at winning 55 and all that was the pinnacle, and that was the aim. That I always thought that standing in Ibrox and hearing the Champions League music again is the one thing that will really hit me. That's the one thing that will really get to me. And I'm always like, Gerrard talks about Ibrox being rocking and during the Europa League games and all that. I always think, you have no idea. Like, you don't know that it can get notched up a level. Like, it can. He has no idea. I've got to say, it was so hard. There was a couple of moments. Can I just say, one of the ones, whether it was going best goal or relive one Rangers moment, and purely because it's a goal that I celebrated against a team that I didn't think I was capable of celebrating that hard against, was Kenny Miller against St Mirren, 9-man at Hampden. That still goes down. Oh my God, like, that still is that's easily top 5 for me, easily, because 9 men, League Cup cup final, nonsense. It was just ludicrous. Like, I love that moment, everything about that. It was nuts. That day was great. Do you know what I mean? You're scoring, winning against St Mirren, you're jumping about like you've scored a last minute goal against Celtic to win the league. It was unbelievable. And
that game is, everybody remembers it, right? But no, because of the football. It was a poor game and Rangers weren't they fucking great. But the roller coaster of emotions, see, when we went down to 9 men, it sank in with everybody that, Jesus Christ, we're going to lose a cup final to St Mirren. And that, for me, that was the acceptance. When we went down to 9 men, like, it's done. That's it, done. I can't believe we're losing a cup final to St Mirren. And no disrespect to St Mirren, but we're fucking Rangers. And then for that to go in, that's like for the lowest of the lows to the absolute, like, highest of the highs.
I'm pretty sure, I can't say I know many St Mirren fans, but I'm almost certain none of them will ever have forgiven Gus McPherson for chucking away a final against 9 men. Like, you would be pretty bitter about that, to be fair.
Aye, no danger, 100%. So, the final question, Graham. If you had the chance to go for a pint with one Rangers manager and one Rangers player, past or present, who would it be and why?
I would be astounded if 98% of Rangers fans don't say Sir Walter and Ali McCoist. That's got to be, and obviously I've had favourite, but obviously McCoist wasn't exactly my era, but then Andy Gorham's my favourite player of all time, and again that's because I'm a goalie, but I guess he's not exactly my era either. But McCoist, for one, he's became more to so many Rangers fans who weren't even in his era as a player because of who he is now. Whether he's a pundit, he's a bloody good one at that. You know, he's a unbelievably top guy, a massive Rangers man. And then Walter Smith is just, what I'd give to spend 5 minutes in the guy's company. Never mind going for a pint with him and Super Ali. I can't imagine a better pairing or a better couple of pints with. It would just be so good. So no, that was an easy one. There's plenty of other people I'd love to, but if I have to pinpoint it, it's those two.
It's really hard to follow up with any questions further into why. I mean, they are like Walter Smith. If there's a Rangers Mount Rushmore, Walter Smith's up there, and there's a very solid argument Ali McCoist would be as well. Is one that, like, I'm a wee bit younger than you, so I didn't see Ali McCoist play either. But it's one of these things when if somebody asked me randomly name 5 Rangers strikers, he's there. I've never seen him play, but I think of Rangers strikers, and Ali McCoist is one of the first that you think of, and that's something that that just confirms his legendary status. It really does.
And people can talk about his managerialship all they want, right? But the 2011 season going into 2012, the team were performing really well. We took an early lead into the league title, and then I think things off the field didn't derail a bit. Again, third division upwards, people talk about him, but that guy was more than the manager on the pitch. Like, I don't think people probably, and I'm not saying I know, I have inside info, but I don't think people give enough credit that he was what held Rangers together. I honestly, genuinely, full on believe that I wouldn't be sitting here having celebrated 55 if McCoist hadn't been the manager during those few years. Like, that guy was everything, absolutely everything. And when he grabbed the mic, I think it was after we won the second division at Ibrox, and he spoke to the crowd. I remember just standing there, tears in my eyes. Honestly, like, it meant so much. The words come from his mouth meant so much to him. It meant so much to me. And I think people can look at him as a manager. That's fair enough. Don't look at him. Don't judge him the guy he is, because for me, genuinely, there is no doubt in my mind.
What we mentioned earlier about the likes of Thomas Buffel, for example, where things change in hindsight, but it's basically revisionism, and that can work two ways, where you start to glorify maybe a player, for example, as time goes on. But I think this works the opposite way with Ali McCoist, where I find now that time's passed by and nobody's ever going to say he was the greatest football manager. Absolutely not. But as time passes by, people are starting to understand the role that he's played in saving our club, in the journey back, and just being, I don't know if ambassador is the right word, but just being a key figure in keeping Rangers together, as you mentioned. And I think people are starting to, for a couple of years, people were disregarding Ali as a player and the personality because of his managerial spell. Revisionism, now we're starting to separate that and we're taking emotion out of it, and it's only fair that we do that. I think nobody will ever argue he was a great football manager, but what we can do is confirm even more than we did in the early 2000s, confirm his status as a is an absolute Rangers legend.
There's a picture, I think it's actually, it always surfaces. There's a picture of him as our manager when we score against Celtic to win 3-2 at Ibrox 2012. Now by that point the league was over, right? There's that picture, see the look in his face, like that tells you everything you need to know about what that man feels about our football club. Or just everything.
You said there the league was over, but that reaction personified the feeling that every Rangers fan in God's fucking green earth felt that day, and that means something. He absolutely captured that emotion that every one of us were feeling. It was a nothing game, but at the same time it meant everything, that game.
Totally, absolutely.
So that'd be a cracking night out. Walter Smith and Alan McCoy. Where would you take them? A local pub or up that Sucky Hall Street?
I think I've got to. I feel like I would have to find time Walter Smith. I can't be taking him to any old place. I think that'd be a nice. I really need to do my research, find out what he like, treat him nice. McCoy, I'm sure, would just kind of go wherever. I'm sure he'd be happy wherever, but it'd have to be circled around what Sir Walter likes, what he wants. We'll go for there.
Aye, maybe go for dinner with Walter and Ali, then Walter goes home, you and Ali go up the garage and take him for a kebab.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Graham, that's the end of the 10 questions, man. How was it all in all? Try to find an answer for each of the questions.
I think it's always hard to separate ones because so many come to your mind. I think the hardest one was probably that unsung hero, purely because my blind loyalty to most players that play for our club. But yeah, it was nice thinking about a lot of the memories, I'll be honest, thinking through some of the favourite goals, best goals I've seen, best away days, all that. No, it was good. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure listening to you, and as I said, like most of your working days are spent talking about Rangers, and this was I feel like I should be getting paid for this. This is what I do 9 to 5. Just listening to you, well, both of us talk about Rangers and experiences, opinions, and I fucking love it. But thank you so much for coming on, sharing your tale, mate.
Anytime.
And thank you for everyone that was listening. If you'd like to come on, talk about your time following Rangers, obviously get in touch with the Gallant Few on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram or Twitter. We'd love to hear the stories that you've all got there. Thank you very much for listening and take care.